The Detroit Lions, one of the NFL's oldest teams, and the most troubled.
The Lions were always thought of as like the easy win.
The paper bag over the head, the 0-16.
After decades of losing seasons, star players, personnel changes, and even curses, why would any fan root for a team this bad for this long?
This is the year, baby! 19-0!
And do they finally have the right team to break the cycle?
Oh my goodness! Jamal Williams to the house!
The answer to all this may lie in the city of Detroit itself.
Detroit, once an industrial powerhouse, has faced its fair share of hardships. From economic decline and urban decay to population loss, the Motor City's history is marked with continued adversity. And for the Detroit Lions, the city's beloved football team, it has been a mirrored journey. A one-time prosperous city, a leader of innovation built on the backs of the hardworking everyday man, Detroit is now looked on as a place no one would be proud of. The stark transformation of decline was a result of the faltering of the city's iconic auto industry.
Hard to imagine, but a century ago, this was the crucible of the Industrial Revolution in America.
And yet, amid uncertain times, the people of the Motor City, never giving up hope of rewriting their story, looked to the Detroit Lions for inspiration, for strength, and for an example of resilience. Unfortunately, the Detroit Lions were facing troubles of their own.
How many playoff games have the Lions won in your lifetime?
In my lifetime, 1.
Now, teams in the NFL have their normal ups and downs, but with a sustained record of losing that seemed to be record-breaking in of itself, were the Detroit Lions just poorly managed, or was there something more behind their story?
The curse of Bobby Lane. I don't know specifically what it is, but there's so many freaking curses around here. Why not throw Bobby into it?
Bobby Lane was the Lions' star quarterback that led them to 3 NFL championships in the 50s. He was known for his behavior both on and off the field.
Bobby Lane was Tom Brady with more alcohol.
He could go out and spend hours the night before drinking, and in the fourth quarter, Lane would have one of his magical comebacks.
When Lions management grew tired of Bobby's antics off the field, they traded him to Pittsburgh.
Well, it hurt me, naturally, when I was traded to the Steelers from the Lions. I really didn't know what to think.
And in a bout of anger and ego, Bobby cursed the Detroit Lions, exclaiming that the team will not win for another 50 years.
I say no, I don't believe it, but maybe.
I didn't until, I saw Jeff Daniels drinking hooch out of a bathtub in the end zone.
I think all sports fans you have a little bit of superstition involved.
There is a curse. It has to be it. If you take the curse out of there, we have to accept the fact that we're this bad.
Decades passed as the Detroit Lions were still unable to capture the magic of the 1950s. But when a light appeared almost 30 years later, it looked like the curse might soon be lifted.
The early 90s, like 90 to 96, 94 was spectacular. This was like the golden age of the Detroit Lions. It was like the 50s, and then it was like the 90s. Yeah, Barry Sanders, Herman Moore, Rodney Peete, all these players that were freaking awesome. I mean, defensive line, Lomas Brown, Jerry Ball, Chris Spielman, all these freaking studs were on the team, and we're a team. We're a team to be reckoned with.
It felt like the Lions were finally on the right track, especially after their divisional playoff win against the Dallas Cowboys. It was their first postseason win in 34 years.
But as good as they were, they still couldn't quite reach their goal.
You play this game to win Super Bowls. And once you had a taste of the playoff and you feel like the organization is not putting out the same kind of effort and you're losing, it's not fun. And once you start picking at a guy's love for the game, you lost him.
Barry retired and other players followed. And just like that, the Detroit Lions were back to a losing record.
People love these great players. Even if they're not fans of the team, they're like, oh man, that guy's good. And I think Barry Sanders kind of created this aura around the Detroit Lions. And I think that once he left, I think it definitely went downhill.
It all culminated in 2008 when they hit a new franchise low.
They won all 4 preseason games, and then I just literally remember all year going, oh my God, what happened?
The Detroit Lions have completed The first non-winning season of a 16-game schedule in NFL history.
We hit bottom, and then we hit bottom again, and then we got a hammer out and hit ourselves in the head a few more times, and then we hit bottom again.
From Matt Millen to the coach to the draft picks, it was just the culmination of a ton of bad decisions by the Ford family and putting the wrong people in charge.
The Lions had made history, but not in the way they had intended.
This was especially tough to take because earlier that same year, not far from Ford Field, the Detroit Red Wings were making their own history. So we had the complete opposite ends of the spectrum in 2008 in Detroit. One fan base was celebrating a victory in a championship, and the other fan base was just hiding from even being a fan.
And as the Lions tried year after year to rebuild, the city of Detroit was falling apart.
Once America's fourth largest city, Detroit, now a stunning $18 billion in debt, clinging to its reputation as the world's Motor City. Today, the Michigan governor announced the unavoidable bankruptcy.
Detroit's broke. Losing half of its population, crime on the rise, and businesses fleeing the city, Detroit seemed to have also hit its lowest point. But that all too familiar feeling only made some work harder to rebuild.
Detroit has the whole grit theme going on. No matter what hand you're dealt, no matter what, you're gonna keep grinding, and you're just gonna keep doing it. And people might count us out, but don't.
And in their own process of rebuilding, the Lions hired a new head coach who had seen firsthand the pain that Detroit had been through.
On that 2008 team, we had a tight end named Dan Campbell. And he was there for that season. So you can imagine the kind of internal rage you have as a football player to have been on a team, that went 0-16, and then now he's the head coach.
I can sit up here and give you coach speak all day long. None of that matters, and you guys don't want to hear it anyway. You've had enough of that shit. We're not going to be average. Let's go. You're a gritty group, and we got to always hold on to that. That's got to be our identity, man. It's our DNA.
I think Dan Campbell has this fire in his loins that he just shoots right out to the team, and he's been there. He had a taste of what the worst could be.
People want to be there. The players want to play for Dan. Just even thinking about Coach, I have goosebumps right now.
Talk all the crap you want, but the Lions are coming in to hit you in the face.
It's not a joke. It's not about biting kneecaps. It's not about hard knocks. It is about beating really good teams in games that matter. Everything says playoffs. Detroit Lions playoffs. James, it's fun to say. You don't get to say it much.
And in a stunning coincidence, the city of Detroit also found itself feeling something it hasn't felt in a long time: hope.
This building is possibly where the American dream was birthed. Some might say that Detroit is where the American dream died. I don't think it's that simple. I think that chapter of the American dream has moved on, and Detroit actually might be the beginning of it again because it's come full circle.
Downtown that is having a renaissance.
People want to live down here. Businesses want to come back here.
It was this giant, thriving city, and then it died, and now it's on the comeback.
The city's been down, and it found a way to get up. It's been kicked. It's been battered. It's been bruised. It's found a way to overcome adversity. This team is going to take on the identity of this city. And when you punch us, we're going to smile at you. And when you knock us down, we're going to get up. We're going to be the last one standing.